Welcome to Cove, Wellbeing and the My Trauma, Your Trauma series with me, Owen Morgan. I want to share my trauma journey and that of others. We will also look at the world of trauma healing, support and research, including guests who specialise in helping those overcome their trauma. My Trauma, Your Trauma is here to explore human experience. Welcome to Trauma Chat, where we invite on guests to talk all things trauma. Please watch and listen with care. Some of this content may be triggering or may make you feel uncomfortable. So do press that stop button and take a break. Always put yourself first. I'm a mental health advocate sharing my lived experience. I'm a massage therapist, wellness audiobook addict and stepdad to my amazing 4-year-old. I've interviewed hundreds of wellness experts and people with stories of overcoming their wellness struggles. I myself have suffered with childhood abuse from childminders, severe school bullying, a deep depression in my 20s, and blackout anxiety, plus life-threatening illness in my early 30s. I want to give a voice to those who can inspire others to improve wellness. I'm super excited today. I'm with another Instagram friend. They're just everywhere now. I'm here with James Wheeler, who is an online coach helping guys take back control of their mental health using fitness and nutrition. He is a hubby, a dad, and a destroyer of stigma. Love that. Welcome to the show, James. How are you today, my friend?
Thank you, mate. Yeah, I'm really good actually. It's been a very productive week. I'm tired and I've got a busy week ahead of me.
It's always good because I know obviously you've got your 2-year-old and your business. So how has 2020 been for you so far with all the craziness that's been going on?
Do you know what? It's probably the opposite to what most people would is sadly going through at the moment. For me, I took the opportunity by the horns, and I'm trying a lot of new things and experimenting and basically doing what I should have done a few years ago. I've been forced into a corner and I'm fighting my way out.
Let's see, you've got to be adaptable, haven't we? You know, quite a few of my guests say the same thing. If you can be adaptable with change like this, there is actually
Yeah.
really good things that can come from it. And I like the fact, like you said, you've been meaning to do that, maybe procrastinating a little bit. Boom, COVID's like, you're doing it now, mate. Um,
Yeah, 100%.
which, yeah, it's really nice, to hear stories of a more positive nature from this. So thank you for sharing that. That's really, really lovely. And one of the big reasons that I wanted to talk to you is that I really like the mental health approach to your fitness and nutrition. So you throw that in the mix because it's so important. As a
Yeah.
fellow PT, I was really intrigued by that. Hence why I reached out to you. I thought it would be a really, really good conversation. So before we talk about your story, and it's certainly a powerful one, a little bit about your business too, just want to let us know a little bit more about your business and what you're up to at the moment.
Yeah, so what I'm currently up to at the moment is I've just started um, building an online fitness business as such. See, my background is I've specialised in mental health and its effects that physical activity has on it. And a lot of feedback from people that I've worked with over the years are like, "Oh, you do personal training?" And I've like, "No," because of my social anxiety. But since the old Corona kicked in and people were forced to go online, it's not affecting my anxiety so much. So I've used that, and I've always had a unique way of looking at the way mental health and physical activity and nutrition affect each other. So I've just taken elements of old business models and I've just merged them together, and this is where I'm at. I've picked up 3 clients in the last 4 weeks, and that's how long I've started. So
Well, congratulations. That's amazing. And obviously, it's the online platform for this is very prevalent, obviously, at the moment because everything that's happening. And I think there's a whole market for it now. And hopefully, these things will continue. I think there's a lot of business models which will continue that way because it's actually more time efficient. Like you said, for those business owners that may be getting burnt out, stressed out, anxious from the whole thing, takes all that pressure
yeah,
off. So, that's super exciting for that. So, yeah, I'm really, really happy for you, man. That's great.
thank you.
So, thank you for that. Now we're going to dive into your story. And like I said, it's very powerful. So, for anybody listening, there will be suicide references here. So, please listen with care. So, could you tell me a little bit more about the suicidal thoughts you had and the attempt and how that all played out? So, the build up to this event, we will talk about your comeback journey in the next question. So, how did you get up to that point? What was life like to get you in this position?
Yeah, I think. Do you know what? When I tell people about what happened, they expect this like horrendous backstory, and it wasn't really the case. Like I've had so much support from my family, right up, right up to the point and afterwards. So I just deem myself as the typical sort of detached teenager. I didn't really enjoy socializing. Didn't really just threw myself into computer games and kept myself to myself. The sort of like Kevin and Perry esque style that we portrayed on TV. So to me, the way I was acting was normal. Um, and then fast forward like a couple of years, I went to college, pulled myself out of college, went into back to sixth form, decided that I wanted to become a plane engineer. Went into the Navy, of all places, to fix Harriers. Um, there was something that weren't quite right, a familiar feeling. So I pulled myself out of the Navy, threw myself into work. And so about 2 months of solid work, I was as a lifeguard. I was casual, and so the pay worked out that after 2 months, I got this 2 grand in 2 months. So the payback pay. So every 18-year-old goes away with their mates. So a selection of us got away, um, and we sort of it didn't feel right from the start. It was this weird experience that I was sort of away. First time I've ever gone away without like my parents, and I'm with a selection of people that some are really close to, some I'm not. Um, and the whole experience, drinking, going out eating, just I think it just got a bit too much for me. And there was just one night where I just sort of had enough, fell out, had a row with my mate, had a row with his girlfriend at the time, had a row with another girl that were there. I trashed a hotel room up. I and that's out of character for me. I smashed this place up. I'm not I'm not proud of it. So then I decided to go for a walk, and I don't particularly cry. I'm not a crier, not because I think I'm too masculine. I just don't. It's never really been one of them things I've done. Maybe it stemmed from my parents splitting up at an early age. Uh, but I've had an amazing stepfather. Like he is my best friend. He was my best man at my wedding. So it's not like my upbringing bringing was like traumatic or anything. So I'm crying, walking down this beach, um, feeling absolutely dreadful, and then I couldn't even face seeing my friends again. So I decided to walk out to sea. I just it was one of them moments. It was quite surreal. It was like the quickest way to stop the way I'm feeling is to just stop feeling, and the only logical way for me at that time was to just end my life. And so I decided to walk out to sea. Um, and I calmly walked out to sea, so it wasn't frantic, or I didn't like weirdly looking back now, I didn't feel any remorse. It was just I didn't want to feel this way anymore. This is how it's going to happen, and then I won't have to see tomorrow. Happy days. To me, that was the quickest way. My phone rang while I was out to sea. I was in the middle of Tenerife, in the middle of the night. Everyone I kind of knew was with me. My phone rang. So the first moment being a teen, I was like, "Oh crap, my phone's going to get wet." So I've rushed back to shore, pulled my phone out, and it's just died in my hand. So it's always been this haunting sort of thing for me that I never knew who called me that day. Um, and then I just went back to the hotel room. I just casually went back to the hotel room. Um, the security guard refused to let me in because there was what he called trouble happening in the hotel room. I had to explain it was me. I was the one shouting and screaming with friends, and I was the one that was causing all the noise. He let me in, and really, the rest is history as such. I woke up next day, didn't speak to my friends for a few years afterwards, didn't tell them about the suicide attempt, didn't tell anyone about it for 12 years. And I just went about my life, and I went home and I threw myself into work. which is what I enjoy doing. I enjoy working hard and proving myself, and it kind of got brushed under the carpet until probably about 5, 6 years ago, when someone was talking about suicide, and I was just reading um, about all these completed suicides and how it was always the parents or the loved ones telling this person's story. And I was like, enough's enough. Someone's got to know about my sort of story. And I wrote into this like local online newspaper and told them how about some like completed or some suicide attempts that didn't end in completion. And here's my story. And from then, I've been talking about it openly to everyone. But that was literally the first time I come out and spoke about it.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And sometimes it has to be the right time, doesn't it, to speak about it? Obviously, it wasn't right back
Yeah,
then. Um,
yeah,
and it just shows that, so often we hear stories of people having these terrible childhoods, and, it kind of makes sense um, a little bit to why they would have just had enough. But it just shows that it can take that one event, that one breakdown or something, to get to a place what sounded like you said you didn't feel any remorse. They would say that's like a form of disassociation. So the pain, you didn't want to feel what you were feeling, so you disassociated. Therefore the act of suicide would on some level may seem slightly easier because you're
yeah,
trying not to feel anything anyway, so it's hard to
yeah,
have shame around it or anything. You don't feel anything about it. um and I can
yeah.
only imagine yeah, that would feel like. And I guess for you looking back at that, I guess you probably don't even know what. Do you think you can remember what that felt like, or is it like just a blur of weird emotions?
It was it was quite strange. I do I never like to sort of go into too much detail purely the fact that it just makes me sound like I'm making the story up. But it's one of them weird things. I've always been able to recoil like and reflect on things that have happened because that's how I learn. But it was literally the path of least resistance. Do I feel like this way all night? Having to face my friends, having to face everyone, having to go back and explain to my family what the hell's gone on, why am I not talking to people, or do I just end it and then I don't have to deal with any of that? So it was like, yeah, so it was like I was in a trance, and it wasn't until my phone rang did I snap out of it, and I was like, oh, phone, quick, go back to the shore. What stupid thing to think when you're like nearly neck deep in seawater, calmly going out as far as you can, and then your phone rings, oh, my phone, and rush back. It's like, so yeah, so looking back, it was like a trance, but I also didn't understand what was going on fully until later on in life. So I had no idea what was going on with myself.
Yeah, well, quite often they talk about, well, from a polyvagal perspective, they talk about story follows state. So, whatever state your body's in, whatever emotions you're feeling, your story can change, your belief systems can change. So, I'm sure in that moment you would have been what they would say down in your gut kind of dread level, not wanting to go back, facing your family. So, your story would be logical. It sounds crazy, but it's logical to end your life in that scenario because your story is
Yeah,
being fed by this deep dread, fear feeling. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Um,
100%. And because I didn't understand what those feelings meant to me and what was going on with my body and my mind, yeah, it seemed logical to do that. It doesn't seem logical to do that now because of like, I have coping mechanisms in place. But at the time, there was no way out in my head of what I was feeling.
totally. And there's the circumstances there too. You're away on holiday, you've had a bust up with the people you're with. So it's very isolating, you're in a different country, you're not speaking to anybody. That's can be quite scary when you think about it. You've got no
Yeah,
you're not near your homes. It's not like you've got any of your safety places that you can go to either.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
it just shows that, when you go away, if something bad happens to you while you're away, it can, as we can see, it can go this way. But it's so good that you're out there telling you know, a story of not quite doing it. And more people need to do that, I think. There's a lot of talk about how can we stop suicide, but not much about how can we stop people even getting to that point. And we need people
yeah.
like you telling us how that looks, how to come back again from even in the moment, come back.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot. Funny enough, I was talking to someone about it the other day. There's a lot that people feel like there's no hope once they've gone past a certain threshold, it's a sort of the point of no return, which isn't true. I always say that my point of no return was literally right up to the point. So there's always an opportunity for you to pull yourself back and sort of go, actually, no, this is not what I want. There is, until that moment where your heart starts beating, there isn't a point of no return.
It's kind of like, just my brain does this. It tries to sort of come up with the language for these things, but it's kind of like, uh, when you, like we say, talk about being in this trance, when people are really suffering and they're in a lot of pain, it's hard to see anything else. It's hard to see safety. It's hard to see compassion and acceptance and connection. And sometimes it just takes that one, like you said, your phone ringing, it takes that one example of connection to make you not feel so much in pain for just for a moment. You don't feel as pain, so much pain in your body, in your mind, and it can pull you out. I think that's why it's so important that as soon as people see a friend, who is really struggling, to just do one thing for them, give them a text, give them a call, just anything, because that one thing, like you said, that one phone call you've got, that one thing can just pull you out enough that you can start to go back the other way.
Yeah, 100%. Like before the, so not before I did it, but before it was published, I spoke to my parents. I was going, look, something's going to come out. I just want to let you know that it's not your fault. It's got nothing to do with you. It was something that happened to me for reasons that I didn't discover on later on in life. But when it came out, I had friends contact me and going, I didn't realize it was that bad. I didn't. Even the people that I went on holiday with were like, Christ, we didn't realize that it was that I'm such a bad friend. I was like, if I didn't know what was going on with myself, how could I expect you guys to know what was going on with me? If up till that point I deemed my behavior as normal, why would I expect you to be able to go, actually, you're not being normal, this is different, and sort of pull me out. So yeah, I think that's why we need to have these conversations early on so we can set these sort of baselines. Right, this is James on a good day, this is James on a bad day, this is James on a really bad day, this is James on a really good day, sort of thing, so you have point of references that people can go on.
Yeah, totally. And there's other elements of this that I'm intrigued by, but I realize actually I'm not in a position to try and figure it out. I'm not even gonna try and figure it out. It's not my place to do that. I haven't been there, and this is for other people to tell us. So what's interesting, like I said, what's interesting about your story is that obviously you've got this great relationship with your stepdad, and your childhood was pretty good. So that's a little bit different for our show. So I asked this same question to everybody that comes on my show. So considering there may be some trauma for you, definitely trauma from probably from that actual event itself, it's very traumatizing. What for you is what is the definition of trauma in your words from what you know about it?
Yeah, well, that's such an interesting question for me because like you said, I don't feel that I've experienced how I would perceive trauma. Obviously, so for me, I would just see it as the sort of really sort of detrimental negative milestones, either from something that's physically interfered with you or mentally interfered with the way you were. So it's kind of like a stick in a road as such, something that's caused you to veer off track, but has some form of negative connotation around it. See, looking back on my life, I don't, and I think that's mainly what's led me to do what I do now. I don't see any negative connotation. So someone asked me the other day, they said, um, if you could fail at nothing, what would you do? And I said, if I would fail at nothing, then I would have completed suicide and I wouldn't be here today. And they was like, okay, I didn't expect you to answer that. So it's really, so when people asked, have you had any traumatic events? I'm like, no, because I don't attach anything negative to my past. I've had negative things happen, but for me, they're learning experiences or things that have molded me into the person I am today, or they've put me on a path, but I don't have any negative attached to them anymore.
That's a very powerful answer. You caught me off guard there with that too. Because That's so true, because so many people think of things that they fail at as the good stuff they were trying to achieve and they failed at doing it. And that's a really interesting way to think about it, is all the things that lead us down the wrong path and we fail to get it wrong. As in, you know what I mean? We go, that's such a
Yeah.
powerful life lesson, I think, because I think plenty of us have that, an example of that for sure. I have to go away and think about mine now. Things I didn't do, but I always like to think of the things that happen to us. It's easy for us to say this, but based on where we are now, but these things happen to us, and they do. I'm not a big believer in things necessarily always happen for a reason, but I think the things that happen to us give us the ability to see things differently. Therefore, it opens up opportunities more. It opens up the world more to
Yeah.
us,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that
100%.
that creation of opportunity is where real transformation could take place. So that's the big thing. They say that about money. You know, if you win loads and lots of money, you need to see it. It opens up the door to opportunity, not stuff. It gives you the ability to do something that you've always dreamed to do. That's the best use of money, is to turn it to something that a dream of
Yeah.
yours.
Yeah.
Which is a huge one. But anyway, this isn't a money show, so let's not go down that route. So what I'm interested about the next question with you is that this is our kind of comeback journey question. So we're looking at how you began to heal, grow, shift your mental health. By the sounds of it, like you said, you went back home, cracked on with work. So it sounds like you probably didn't know then what had happened to begin healing. So when you realized, was there any form of healing before a couple of years ago when you were like, right, I realized what happened? Or was that just cracking on and then you went on a healing journey once you remembered?
Yeah, no, to be fair, yeah, so my journey after that was really weird. So in retrospect, it's weird. It weren't for me at the time. So I just went back into my job. I've always been a very passionate, determined person. So um I would do well at a job, but still, like, my underlining sort of anxieties and stuff were there. So I'd chop between jobs and I'd progress up the career ladder. I was the youngest ever operations manager to be employed at the center that I worked at. And it wasn't until this gentleman, by the way, name of Wayne, he's an extremely close friend of mine now, wanted to do like a mental health sports program sort of thing. And I was like, oh, this is going to be hell. This is an absolute nightmare to work with people who have mental health, who are like crazy, like temperamental, all this. And I was like, right, let's just do this. Because we was quite an inclusive centre anyway. We dealt with a lot with pan disabilities. So we sort of entertained it. I'd got to know Wayne, and he was like, do you know what? And this is before I'd even come out with the suicide stuff. So he was like, do you know what? It's like, I think you've got anxiety. I was like, what are you chatting about? So we went through, and for the next year, so he suffered severely with bipolar. He was a very successful businessman, and bipolar sadly made him lose all his money, and he was on the up of getting his life back, and he'd been around the scene for a really long time and knows some really influential people from all walks of life, very high people up in the World Health Organization as well. So he was throwing me all these experimental questionnaires, and I was just entertaining it. And one day he sent me a questionnaire by email, and it was like, oh, sorry, it wasn't a questionnaire; it was just bullet points, and and it had a header. It said, was it attention? It was called something like that was it, approval to seek approval anxiety, and I was like, okay. So I read the bullet points, and I was literally ticking off every bullet point as a trigger in my head, all the things that I did. And I was like, oh, you might have hit the nail on the head with this one, because we've sort of thrown out a few anxieties. So I was like, right, I'm going to owe it to myself to live my life with these bullet points in mind. These are the sort of triggers that I'm going to be aware of, and I'm just going to see what happens. And then my life got so much better. It improved 1,000-fold. My relationship with my wife improved. My finances improved. My social life improved as much as it could with a social anxiety. My work ethic improved, and just I was just getting so much enjoyment out of life again. I had so much control back. I would discuss things with my wife, and we'd understand that these anxieties were in play. And then it was like yourself, Wayne was like, okay, so now you know about mental health and you're already very educated about fitness and nutrition. Come be a director of this program that we're running and help us sort of improve it. So I was like, yeah, okay, I enjoyed it. So I was helping him run this program, and he was helping me with my mental health at the time. And we sort of worked out together on this program that it was saving the NHS roughly 3 million every 2 years. We were running this program in social care. And it was at that point I sort of like, okay, this is important, how physical health and mental health. So then I started reflecting back on my life with everything I knew then. Okay, so right, I left school because I didn't have any friends, I weren't fitting in, my anxieties flared up. Okay, then I went to college, I didn't apply myself, I already knew I was going in as the forces by then. Didn't get anything out of college. Went to the forces, saw that everyone else was growing around me, and my anxieties flared up. So I left the forces. And then I took it all the way back to that holiday moment. And I was like, do you know what? Like you said, I was away. I was away from my computer games, which was a coping mechanism for me. I was away from sports, which was a coping mechanism for me. I was away from being able to communicate with people whenever and whenever I needed it. So I was stripped of everything that kept me in control of my anxieties to the point that they boiled over and I couldn't control them anymore. And that was the point where I tried to take my life. So in hindsight, I was always had these anxieties, but no one ever told me about them. So I was like, oh, so if I knew about them, would these have happened? Possibly. But could I have changed things? Yes. I could have took a handheld games console with me on holiday. Maybe that would have made a difference. I could have let someone know that if I got upset, it could have got out of control. So I think my journey was so intense that I discovered about my mental health and about 300 other people in the space of a year, how their like coping mechanisms, how they handled their mental health, that it sort of amalgamated into this one great big ball of knowledge that I was learning with everyone, which sort of put me in a great position that I am now, which is helping people with mental health issues and how I can use fitness and nutrition to affect them.
Thank you very much. And my first bit of nugget that I took from that was that they talk a lot about, it's so important to feel safe. We know healing doesn't happen if we're not feeling safe. So safety allows us to heal, safety allows us to learn effectively. You need to feel safe in your body, in your environment, with those around you to be able to be high functioning. And when I say high functioning, I mean in a positive way. What you're describing was similar to me, where I was high functioning in the sense that I would do really well at work and get promotions, but I was still really anxious and a little bit depressed too. But I was so high functioning and driven by that, it helped me just get through, which is fine,
Yeah.
but it does catch up with you in the end and it does lead to burnout. Um,
Yeah, there's a moment where me and Rachel had split up, uh, like before we got married, just when we was like together, and I was calling in work sick because I felt sick, I felt ill. I didn't realize it was my anxieties and depression flaring up again.
totally. It can look different. We talk about depression, anxiety, and people may be thinking about it in the obvious symptoms, but sometimes it can look different. If you're not attuned to it and you're not attuned to your
Yeah,
body, you just
yeah,
you just feel shit, but you can't really put your finger on it. So people need to remember that too. It's not as simple as that. Oh, I get heart palpitations, it's anxiety. I better sort it out. It's not that simple. But what was interesting about your story about you going away, like we said, we talked about the importance of safety, but the fact that when you went away and you had all your safety cues, as they would call them, taken away from you, you're only left with isolation, maybe low mood, fear, whatever different people's responses are. But the biggest part of the healing journey, which I'm sure you've learned, is that you need to be able to build up your window of tolerance. So, how much can you tolerate and remain safe?
yeah,
So, if you
yeah,
take you out of your world and put you in a different one, and you can't cope, it means that there's still more healing work to do, because you need to be able to be comfortable enough to get through certain situations which feel uncomfortable. So, do you feel that through that journey up to today, you've been able to build a higher tolerance to life, I guess?
Yeah, I think from the moment I discovered my anxieties, because I'm still not officially diagnosed. So the moment I discovered those anxieties, yes, because um, I like to refer it back to the similar to physical health. Like there's a point of you can put your body under so much physical strain, but if you know it's not going to break or damage, you will push through it. Like same as if you're lifting weights or whatever you're building for growth, you will push through it and then you'll suffer DOMS and whatever. The way I deal with my mental health is there's obviously only so much strain you can put yourself under, but if I know that I'm going to get through this in eventually it'll heal, then I'm willing to go through so much strain. Like I will put myself into an awkward social situation that I know I'm not going to terribly enjoy, and it will take a tremendous amount of strain out of me. um, Through that, if say for instance I'm at a family event or something, whereas before I would have avoided it. I would have not gone. I would have made the excuses up. I would have lied. I would have pretended I got lost or something. I would have made so many excuses up not to do it. But now I'll go, right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to try and enjoy it. But if I don't, it's not the end of the world. Whereas before, I'll be like, no, that's like the worst possible situation I could find myself in.
That's such a good point about, how far do you push yourself, because they often say, like, the faulty thinking can be that, to get over PTSD or whatever is to put you in that situation again and just do it differently or whatever, which is really dangerous because you can re-traumatize them. But they talk about it about having a safety anchor. So you could go to that family do, which it may make you feel really uncomfortable, but you can take a safety anchor. So maybe Rachel's your safety anchor, or maybe take the little one with you, or it could even be like people have like a stress ball in their pocket, just some form of safety anchor. So even when you're feeling like really shit in that moment, you can just bring your awareness to your safety anchor that you've got with you. So you can
Yeah.
start to heal in those scenarios by taking a bit of safety with you. Like you said, if you took the console with you on holiday, it would give you a chance to feel at home again, where you feel good. Which Yeah, which is really, really interesting. I did have another point and it is gone. It'll come back. And it was, oh, that was it. So as fitness people, we know, right, that a lot of fitness guys and girls don't get that the fitness gain comes in the recovery. So you hit the weights, but the fitness adaptation comes in the repair post session to strengthen your muscles so you're strong for next time. A lot of fitness people don't get that and they overtrain, don't they? So they'll just
Yeah.
train and
Yeah.
train and train, and they don't see any adaptation. They're like, I'm just tired and my muscles are still, they're not, there's no added percentage mass. And you explain that to them, they're like, oh, okay, well, that sounds weird. Okay, so I'm supposed to rest more and I'll get bigger muscles. How's that work? But it's similar to what we're saying here with mental and emotional health too, is that when you have healing, your body needs time to process the information that you've learned about your healing. So you can't just see a trauma therapist like for hours every day and completely burn out your healing journey. You need to step out, integrate what you've learned in the last
Yeah.
session. It's the same thing. So you can transform over time. It's not as simple as, hitting the mind gym once. Boom, anxiety gone.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we discovered when I was working, when sort of I helped develop Fitness in Mind, a charity organisation that was running these programs, that we had to work. So we basically we collected the first ever data that proved that mental health can be improved by physical activity and be sustainable. The recovery can be sustainable. There was no other data, so we couldn't even compare. So we went in thinking, oh, we're gonna improve mental health by getting people to exercise, and got absolutely proven wrong. So it was like, oh, okay. So we carried on doing it. People were getting better. But when we analysed the data back, what we realised was we actually had to get people on a base level of mental health anyway, and improve their mental health first, then get them into physical activity. Then the both grew together and then they both were sustainable. We couldn't just go, oh, you're depressed, exercise, because that has negative effect on that person's mental health. because they resent exercising. Yes, endorphin, serotonin, dopamine, all that does what the body does, but that's only temporary. If you haven't got sort of a good sort of strong mental health while you go into these activity sessions, you're never gonna sustain that. You're just gonna still, it's just gonna be go seesawing. So we were putting these like social interactive sessions prior, never forced anyone to participate in exercise. And what we found is when people came in and got comfortable and safe, and they realized it was a safe place that had no stigma, then they were trusting the coaches, and then they were getting involved in the physical activity without any worry of people sort of being prejudiced against them, realizing that all everybody that participated in the sport, whether there was excellent or just a beginner, had some form of mental ill health for that particular time, and everyone grew together. Um, but it was topped off with more social interaction. So it wasn't, all right, see you later, guys. You've done the class. Well done. It was, come back. Let's have a chat. Let's see how you feel. And it was building those elements together as a unit, which sort of inspired me to do it this way. Like I was saying earlier, I've taken three old models of nutrition and fitness and mental health, and I've put them together to be improved at the same time. Not, oh, don't worry, just exercise because it makes you happy. Yeah, for a couple of hours. So what do you do after those couple of hours?
Yeah, it's interesting that you say about that, with all the hormone side. But you said for a couple of hours, it's the same as, addictions to alcohol and stuff. It's only going to last you so long, and then you're going to need to get another hit. So it's not. It's good, it's good for a bit of relief for a bit. Obviously, it's nothing like alcohol in the sense of the damage alcohol causes, but we're talking more about like another big thing that you may be aware of is that so many people with serious anxiety think that hitting the treadmill and all that kind of stuff is going to be a good thing for their anxiety. But what they've got to remember is that to do, especially high paced running, you need to use your fight and flight system. So you need to use a bit of your what they would call safe and social from polyvagal perspective in with your fight and flight because you need a level of adrenaline to play the game. So the problem is if you're constantly in fight and flight because of your anxiety, and then you go and do high intensity cardio, that's also fight and flight. So how is your anxiety going to go away from that? So it's knowing the right kind of exercise in this moment that can help you. And I found that when I slowed it down and I started going for long walks, I really started to see a transformation in my well-being because it was much slower and I was able to get the benefits of movement but without maxing out my system, my nervous system. So it's a similar thing to what you're talking about there, that there's a misconception, isn't there?
Yeah, I hate going to the gym. Believe it or not, I own one. I hate training. So even for me, if I go to the gym and I've not packed my water bottle, or I've not, my headphones are not charged, or I haven't got the right music, or my phone's died, or any one of those factors, I've been known to go to the gym and walk straight back out. And I'm a professional in the industry, so even something like I understand how much it takes to get to that point of exercise. So it doesn't offend me. I understand there's an element of education that people need, but it grinds my gears as such when people go, "Oh yeah, just exercise. It helps your mental health." You're like, "Yeah, but you've got so much that you have to get to before you even exercise for it to improve your mental health that that gets so forgotten." Um, and I think it's that sort of element as well. So my passion is combat sports. So you have to have, when you exercise, like you say, it's not intense. It's an element of control. When you spar, you don't rush into it. You have to control your surroundings. You have to control the person you're fighting, or if it's like so kickboxing and American football, my two passions. So if it's American football, you have to control the situation. It's a smart game. It might look like you just bash each other up, but it's very much intellectual. So you have to think before you get physical, and the combination of the two gives me such a buzz. So I'm not saying I tell my clients to box, but working on their mental health is just as important as working out their calorie intake or working out how much reps they've done. Because like you say, it's not all about just smashing the weights out, or or fasting, it has to have that perfect balance for it to work.
Yeah, they have to look at the reasoning behind it, the values that you have around it too. People could tell us to do a lot of things that might be good for us, but you have to really do a deep dive. And to really understand what you need or what you want or your values, you do need to take that time first rather than otherwise you're going to try something for a bit, try something else, try something else. Like you said, after a while, you start to feel shit about yourself. Like, why can't I stick to anything? And for me, it's racket sport. You know, that I could play racket sport 10 hours a day. I just love it so much. So I know that I'd rather do that than anything else. So it's making that happen. And why is it? Because I love the camaraderie. I can never say it, the camaraderie. You know, that word where a relationship with somebody is great. But I love doing exercise with people. I love, like you said, I love the tribal aspect. I love it. You're in it together. You've got a shared in that moment. You're sharing an experience, very special for us all as humans. So it's the tribal aspect of it's huge. I always think like if you go to a regular spin class, you start to make friends with people in the class, and you're having a great time. You're having a laugh afterwards. Maybe go for a smoothie after your spin class. That's what it's all about. Where you start to build community around it.
Well, ironically for me, it's not. But I understand that very much understand that people get such a buzz from it. But for me, it's always been something where only I can affect my development. I used to play football. I hated football. I hated having to rely on someone else to help the team. If a ball got past someone else, like I always played in defence, if a ball got past someone else and they scored, I hated the fact that I couldn't sort of affect that. So, as weirdly as American football was, it was just me. So I played running back. It was just me. We'd train as a collective. We'd train as 70 strong. But it was me with the ball running for 11 people. No one else. It's not anyone else's job. It's my job to get to that point. Same with kickboxing. We trained with 20, 30 people. But at the end of the day, it was only me that could defeat my opponent. And yeah, and I found it really, really strange that I didn't enjoy these sort of team sports until I understood my anxieties. That I didn't like to rely on other people. It was a social aspect that sort of got my back up. That I couldn't understand how other people think and feel until I learned about what was going on with myself.
Well, time and time again, we mentioned control today, and I was quite similar. When we have anxiety and depression, that we you can fall into a habit of trying to control environments and what we're doing, the spaces that we're in, because it makes us feel safe. It's totally normal. It's a survival response. It's a good thing. It's you protecting yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. And that can apply to any walk of life, including fitness. I totally get what you're saying about that. I do, squash will always be my favorite, just me and another guy or girl on the court. And can I overcome this hurdle? It's a metaphor for life, man. Squash.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah,
can I,
yeah.
can I,
And I think where it becomes, yeah, so I was just trying to say, I think that's when it becomes unhealthy is when you try to control what you can't. And that's when it gets out of hand, and that's when anxiety get when you have to sort of assess, right? I can't control what my opposition is doing, so I control what I'm doing. I can't, and same with family, I can't control what my family members are doing. We can work together, but ultimately I can't control that. I can't control someone else's environment. I can't control other people's reactions. um, so it is a case of not trying to not let them affect how you control the things you can, and that's what is good. Like with what I do, because I'm like, right, I don't control their fitness. I go, right, this is what we can do. We'll reassess it next week. You let me know what we don't do or don't like. I'm not going to control your nutrition. You just fit within these parameters, and then we'll go from there. Same as with their mental health, with their check-ins. It's like you're going to tell me how you feel and what things that we need to work on, and we'll work on a solution together. But ultimately, you need to be the ones to make that decision.
yeah, well, I mean, that's healing fitness gain 101, that you're not there to do it for them you're there to facilitate
Yeah,
through your wisdom and your knowledge and whatever. So they can do it's the same, with any form of healing. The person's healing themselves. The therapist is just there to facilitate and hold the space. It's the same thing. And, I know from my personal training days that, you know, I can give them all the programs in the world, but they have to ask themselves, why are they there? What do they actually want to get out of this? What's the reason? Because sometimes the reasons aren't necessarily good reasons. So like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
just, people say I just want to look great. I'm like, that's not a goal. That's not, what does that look like? We need to know what that
That's
looks
not
like.
tangible, is it?
And if you can figure out what that looks like, literally what it looks like, that's fine. But then how do you upkeep that? Is it going to allow you to do all the other things that you enjoy in your life?
Yeah,
Because I
yeah,
always get stuck in the part of it that I love food. And before it was in a bad way, was now I just love it. So I'm stuck in this. Well, my value is to enjoy life in the moment, enjoy my food. But my other value is, but I also want to be healthy. So now I've got myself a bit
yeah,
of an awkward situation here of how can
yeah,
I get both of those in there. So now I'm like, okay, well, I love my food, so I'll make it as clean as possible, but I'll just do some extra walks or I'll pick up an extra shift at work. So I'll make it work. So both my values get met.
yeah. And there's like I put a post up on Instagram the other day that I lost £7 in a week and I'd finished 5 tubs of ice cream. I was having a really bad week, so the ice cream there helped me mentally. Um, I'm not. It's not something that I do all the time, but it's possible to do that if you stay within your restrictions and your parameters and whatever it is. You don't have to sacrifice. You never have to make sacrifices. You just have to have control again of what you're doing, and don't lose control. And that's when it becomes an issue, when you lose control in a negative way. And sometimes it's nice to lose control every now and then as well, like go out on a binge one day, but it's all about gaining that back as well.
Well, yeah, totally. Like being rigid can be a source of anxiety. You get yourself
Yeah,
trapped in this
yeah.
claustrophobic way of living your day to day. So like, it well, this isn't a fitness conversation, obviously, even though we've gone into
No,
it,
no.
but it just gives people
Yeah,
that the fitness journey is such a metaphor for mental health
yeah,
anyway.
100%. And I think that's what it is. I think that I've learned so much about the how pretty much how physical and mental health work together, that yeah, I often go off on a fitness tangent and nutrition tangent to explain how to gain back control of your mental health and how to gain back control of your life, because that's how I've learned. And even looking in hindsight, I was doing it naturally. That's how I learned. I wasn't training 4 or 5 times a day, but it helped me keep control of my mental health. And everything, I do will always have a mental health undertone, because it's so important, especially with blokes. We don't talk about it enough. And gyms have always been portrayed as these masculine environments, sadly, that I sort of utilize that to open people up to the conversation as well.
Yeah, well, it's so, thank you. It's so important to check in. I say to people, just check into what's going on for you right now. How are you actually feeling in this moment? What are your thoughts up to? Tune in, see what thoughts are coming in. If you could just tune in. So I always think, if I'm about to go downstairs and have a little naughty treat or whatever, I can check in with myself and say, why am I having this naughty treat? Just quickly, it doesn't take very long, just briefly. And you can still do it. It's no shame in that whatsoever. But
Yeah,
if I'm like, I'm doing this because I'm absolutely bloody exhausted, and I'm like, okay, but what do I really need? I'm like, to go and have a nap. So I have a nap instead.
yeah,
But sometimes
yeah,
I'm feeling pumped. I'm like, "Do you know what? I've had a great day. I'm gonna bloody have this treat." That's a positive
yeah. Too
mental
right, not.
health decision. There's nothing wrong
Yes,
with that.
yeah, yeah.
So that ability to be aware and to check in is where the power basically resides, I think is what we're saying.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And having a great support network as well. Definitely, I've got friends that can tell from a word, if not a few words, of our first ever conversation that day, what sort of mood I'm in. And he'll go, and he's my business partner as well for other projects. And he's like, right, what's up? Tell me. And vice versa. And it really does work. And then same with like Rachel understanding that if we have a hard social day, I'm probably going to nap for most of the evening. So, and if she weren't aware, I could understand if she was on my case if she weren't aware. But it's all about, and I think that's what, as blokes, we sort of choke ourselves with. We suffocate ourselves with this need to keep everything bottled inside, when actually everyone kind of, especially the people you love and the people that care, um, will be with it. And to be fair, if you opened up to someone and they couldn't give like two hoots, then you don't need that person in your life anyway. That's really not, like, is easier said than done. Like for me, with my mental health, it is quite easy for me to cut people off. I can understand it's not for everyone else, but doing so for me was great. Like I had a row with someone not so long ago, and I just cut them off social media completely because it was going to affect my mental health, and I needed to do that.
Yeah, that level of self-care is huge. That's awareness again, though. You're aware of your boundaries,
Yes, yeah, yeah,
what what is a suitable amount of, communication like that before it's too much. So it's like, again, it's that level of self-awareness and self-care is really important. And from a couple's perspective, if you can get to a position where you can just tell each other, like, hey babe, I found that today was tough for me, like, and then your partner can be like, oh, what do you think we should do tonight then, just like, and then it could be like, look, can we just have a chilled one, can we just like watch some trash telly and have a great time or whatever. You can just solve the problem like that. You know what you need, you just need to confirm it with your partner, like, I've had a tough time. There's no shame in that. They'll probably respect you more for it, but that again is a whole other episode. um,
yeah.
but so our next question is, because I realize we hovered on that question for quite a long time. Um, do what you've been through. I obviously this affects the way you work. Your experiences have informed the way you work. So when you're working with your clients, especially online and stuff, are you when you go through the process of doing sessions and programs, all that kind of stuff, are you really bringing in the mental health aspect, asking them certain questions to get a sense of what's going on for them?
Yeah, so the way it tends to work is we do some sort of generic program writing, generic like nutrition. I make sure that I absolutely know what exercises they enjoy doing, what they hate, what food they love, what food they can't stand, so we can really emphasize that in their sort of nutrition plans, making sure that they're including these foods weekly, if not daily, if that's going to help, making sure the exercises that they really do love are in there at least once a week. Um, and then with that, so then they'll fill out like some data forms, which will just help with their fitness and nutrition side. But the real sort of important bit is their check-ins. So anyone that I know needs sort of more focus with their mental health, I'll make sure that they book in a check-in with me, um, like either Zoom or a phone, and we just break down the week. Normally, an online personal trainer would use this opportunity to talk about fitness and nutrition and go through all the bits they need to change. Yes, I do that, but I really like to turn it into like an informal chat where I get them to sort of tell me all like the things that have cropped up that week, all the barriers that have turned up, sort of techniques that I've learned from the past about how to get people to open up a bit more, just so they can realize that those things have happened and we can address them. um, if they've had a bad day, how it's affected, how eating certain foods have affected it, how doing certain exercises have affected it, just to get them sort of really open to the fact that fitness has complemented that, nutrition has complemented that, or neither, and I need to work on it on a more like not so spiritual level, but more holistic way, or even just talking about a barrier and working out a solution together. Um, it just that extra element to the training that will see them through.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. I'm so glad that that's kind of how it looks. I wish, there's more of that happening, because so many of our hindrances in our fitness programs are coming from emotional mental place. So you can spend all day saying, you can do it, you can do it. I believe in you. I believe in you. Just hit those reps. It's like, why can't you hit these reps? What's you okay? What's going on? How can I help you, like, overcome whatever it is that's stopping you? And then you can start to look at those things, and boom, they start to transform their body just straight away, because they're
Yeah,
able to
and that I
see.
think that I joke that it's what I do, losing weight and getting fitter is a side effect of what I do. So we're predominantly working on your mental health, and the side effect of doing this program together is you either lose weight or you get bigger or you get toned or whatever, or you get fitter and healthier. That's the side effect. So we focus on using this to get your mental health and getting back control. The side effect is all the stuff that people tend to go to a PT for.
Yeah, totally. I absolutely love it. I'm like, shit, man, I should have done this when I was a PT. It was too early. I went into massage after that, so I'm a massage guy now. But it's just been really nice to have a fellow fitness person on the show, actually, just to talk these things through, which is amazing. So, mate, what would be, for anybody listening right now that, guys, loads of people, loads of ways of approaching this, but what would be your final insights for the audience, people who are feeling a bit stuck, be it mentally or emotionally? What would be your goodbye, epic speech?
Oh Christ. So yeah, I think anyone that's struggling, firstly, if you're struggling alone, um, find like common ground with something, either it's like with your own Instagram page or my Instagram page or whatever, or friends. I think if you can do that to start off with, great. If you can take the next important step, would be to discuss it with someone. Do not suffer in silence. I think the worst thing, looking back, that I did, obviously I didn't understand, but if I'd have known earlier on in life what was going on, then it would have helped. So I think, just if you're not feeling right, talk to someone, reach out. I always claim that I have a safe space on my Instagrams. Anyone can drop me like a DM and go, look, I'm not feeling right, blah blah blah. And if it's something that I can't professionally deal with, or even like informally, then I will signpost, um, so that they don't have to worry about that. And I just think it's important for people to just talk about it. Do not hold it in. It's the worst thing you could possibly do.
Definitely. Thank you, my man. We have loads of helplines too in the description of this video, so people can look out there too. Sometimes that's a good place to start. Somebody you don't know at all. So there's no shame in
Yeah,
that. Then it feels
yeah, yeah,
safer. Well, that's amazing. Thank you so much for joining me today, my friend. We're going to find out a little bit more what's up next for you in your business, and also how we can find you online. I'm just going to thank my patrons a second, and then we'll get on to that. So I just wanted to do a big shout out to all our awesome patrons on Patreon for all your support. Your donations every month really do mean the world to me. It allows me more time to do what I love. I do have a new job now, full time, and doing massaging everywhere. But this is my biggest passion, and one day it'll be my full time gig. And you patrons make that happen. So thank you to Mike Morgan, Emerald McLeod, Maggie Palmer, Daniel Billing, Roland Chesters, Hannah Irvin, Karen Goodson, Julie Ferris, Stella Stati, and of course my co-hosts on my other podcast, Stephen Truelove and Daryl Osborne. I hope that list doesn't get too big because it's going to take forever to say it. But actually, keep going, keep signing up, people. You can sign up to the Man Cove Wellbeing community at the link in the description of this video, or visit www.patreon.com/mcw. There's a range of other benefits there, and we do have our coaching coves coming either the end of this year or the beginning of next year. I just need to do all my courses and get qualified first, but there will be some group coaching stuff happening. It's going to be amazing. So you can find out more about this also at mancovewellbeing.com. So, James, what is next for you? What does the rest of the year look like, and where can we find you
yeah.
online?
Yeah, so I'm currently still building my online. So I'm taking on clients at the moment, through the PT that we've discussed, the online training. Um, my gym's just opened, Serene Fitness, in Romford, but we're actually changing the model. Me and my business partner are now turning it into a um, intensive stroke rehabilitation workshop where we work with stroke survivors and their family. So he'll be doing all the physical rehabilitation. I'll be working with the family, like group talking therapies and other things like that. But yeah, so we're going to start with that and go forward. So my main thing is the next 2 months, I'll be really developing the PT, making it even better than what it already is now, and going from there. So if anyone wants to find me, it's the Fitness and Mind Coach, pretty much everywhere: Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah, good stuff, man. I put all the links in the description video. Can I just say kudos to the Stroke Rehabilitation Centre concept? That's absolutely amazing. You're doing some awesome work there. So yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you, my friend.
And you, mate.
Good stuff. All right, my friend. We will probably speak again soon. And I just want to thank all of our amazing listeners. Thank you for everybody that's downloading the episodes on Spotify and Podbean right now. It's gone a little bit crazy. So thank you. Maybe it's everyone's in lockdown, so they're listening at the moment. Well, not anymore. I know we're obviously a lot of us are back outside now. But thank you. Honestly, it means a lot to me to see how well it's doing. And Instagram is doing really well. So thank you to all our listeners. It means the world to me. So thank you. I'll be back soon for some more wellness chitty chat. I have some unbelievable guests lined up. If you follow our Instagram stories, you'll always be able to find out who those are. But honestly, amazing human beings. So have a wonderful day, everybody. Stay safe, support your friends online and offline, and take care of your nervous system. It's the only thing you've got to keep you alive. So look after it, for God's sake. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening, and we will see you next time.